Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. We have a 3 o'clock agenda. It was for DM on House Bill 2399. We would like to move this to the back of all of our agendas so we can take a vote all at once. So I'm going to adjourn the 3 o'clock agenda, and like magic, it's 3 o'clock again for our Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, and our good friends for the Committee on Labor, Culture, and the Arts. We are in room 224 on this March 23rd. For those of you who are participating remotely or viewing remotely and joining us remotely, this hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. You'll find links to viewing options and all Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. In the highly unlikely event that we have some technical difficulties, the committee will convene to discuss any outstanding business, and we assure you we will have a public notice as to when that reconvening may take place. And for those participating remotely, all testifier audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. For this agenda, we have House Bill 2448 HD1 relating to a statewide data hub. On our testifiers list, we have Eugene Tian from DBED. Mr. Tian mentioned that he was going to be here. We have Trevor Barzua from the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Trevor Barzua with the Chamber of Commerce, Hawaii. We're expressing concerns on House Bill 2448. We understand the intent of the bill, I know the sponsor, to gather data and business data, but we just feel the bill is far too broad. It doesn't articulate how the data will be kept secure. And we have a lot of concerns, a lot of our members have concerns on data security, where they could put people at risk for health and safety reasons. The other part of it as well is there's no kind of stipulations on how the data is being tracked and what data will be tracked. It's very broad, and we have concerns on that. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, Trevor. Lauren Zerbel from the Food Industry Association. I believe she's going to join us via Zoom, and maybe is not there. Tina Yamaki, Retail Merchants of Hawaii.
Aloha and good afternoon. I'm Tina Yamaki with the Retail Merchants of Hawaii. And while we understand the intent of this bill and the want for the state's want for this type of information, we are respectfully opposed to it. Retailers are concerned about the type of information that's going to be sought, and there's no real parameters on what information can be asked and what businesses would have to provide. Is it going to be aggregated? Do we have to give up some of our, information that's only proprietary to business, and our other people can get to that type of information? We're also very concerned about cybersecurity as well, because we know it's easy to access any type of data system. So for that reasons, we are respectfully opposed to this, and we hope you kill the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Members, that's all we have for in-person as well as Zoom testifiers. Any questions of those who have joined us today? Tina, I have a quick question. Both you and the chamber have kind of expressed some concern about the scope of the information being gathered. But from what I understand, it's not anything different from what you already provide or businesses already provide to the Department of Labor. I don't get the sense that this is like all of a sudden what has traditionally been done is going to be, once it ships from labor to DBED, going to be like, oh my gosh, we're going to shovel in all kinds of new data. So why would you think that this movement from DLIR to DBED is going to all of a sudden change the way you already provide information to the state?
So in the bill or the law, that how it's written now, it states specifically what type of information the state is seeking. In the bill, this measure opens it up to anything. I'm trying to look for the language. It says to determine any type of employer-employee data to collect. What type of data is that? Anything can be construed as employer or employee, whether it's environmental, whether it's employment issues, whether it's our healthcare benefits. So that's where our concern is. I think the intent was to find certain information on how much we pay for minimum wage. I think that was the intent of the bill, but it goes far beyond that scope. And I don't think that's what was realized.
So if we were to amend the bill to allow to the continuation of within the federal restraints that you just mentioned, then you'd be okay with us moving this bill.
Well, it depends what you're listing as what you want from us, yeah.
But right now, you mentioned that there's federal guidelines as to what data
No,
is shared.
It's the
And-
state. The state already has guidelines, but we have to report to the state.
Okay, so we put those state guidelines in there, then you feel comfortable.
The current ones are comfortable because that's what we're already reporting.
Okay. Thank you. Members, any further questions? If not, we're going to take a brief recess prior to taking the vote. Thank you for your patience. We're reconvening the Joint Committee on Energy Economic Development and our friends from the Labor, Culture, and Arts Committee. The two chairs have conferred and would like to move this measure along, but make an amendment to try to assure the business sector that the state's not going to go out and start digging into all kinds of proprietary, confidential type of information. So we're going to put into the bill that the information being sought will only be sought for what the current state data allows for. Whatever the current state data is that is being collected, we will have that as the guidelines as to what shall be collected by DBED in the future. So that's the suggested amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misaluccio, I vote yes.
Members, Committee on Energy, Economic Development and Tourism. This is for House Bill 2448. Chair recommends pass with amendment. Chair recommends or votes aye. Vice Chair Misaluccio votes aye. Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Riviere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair with 5 votes, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
I guess for labor and culture and the arts, the chair shares some of the concerns that were expressed in the testimony, but with the amendments, I believe we can proceed. So we'll recommend pass with amendments. Any discussion? If not, Ihara.
You heard the chair's recommendation to pass House Bill 2448 with amendments. Chair Taniguchi.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Thank you. Senator Kyoho Kolole.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We want to convene our joint committees on energy, economic development, and tourism, and our good friends from the Committee on Government Operations. It's about 3:05 in room 224 on this 23rd day of March. We have one item on this agenda that is House Bill 1785 HD1 relating to tourism governance. First on our testifiers list, we have John DeFries from the Hawai'i Tourism Authority.
Aloha, Chair Wakai, Chair Moriwaki, and Vice Chair Misaluccio, Vice Chair Dela Cruz. The Hawaii Tourism Authority is here today in support of HD1, HB 1785. Also joining me is Keith Regan, our Chief Administrative Officer, and Chief Brand Officer Kalani Ka'anana, and we'll stand by for any questions, but our testimony stands in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeFries. That's all I have for online testifiers. Is anyone in the room wishing to testify on this particular measure? Mr. Haas?
Aloha, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair. I apologize. I submitted testimony, was going to testify last week when this was on the agenda, but I failed to enter my testimony. So just to summarize a few points, I've been involved in tourism for many years. And in doing some of the work for my clients and my academic work, I've looked at plans going all the way back to 1991. And it's not a case that we haven't seen the issues of tourism. Even back in 1991, when we had 6.5 million visitors during the Hawai'i administration, there was a plan that found tourism growth has renewed attention to environmental issues, focus on cultural tourism, heritage preservation. So we've seen this for years. And I think the missing piece has been a good governance structure. So that's the first finding is we've seen plans and good intentions for many years, but not a very effective solution to those issues. The second point I'd like to emphasize is that we're not alone in dealing with over-tourism, and there are destinations around the world that are effectively dealing with it. And I think this bill is a great step to see what's out there in terms of good practices that we can learn from. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we're going to take questions at the end. Thank you, Mr. Haas, for joining us today. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to testify on this measure? Okay. Members, any questions of those who are here? Senator Rivera.
Sir, you mentioned there are other destinations that are effectively managing. I'm aware of maybe Venice, where they don't allow cruise ships in anymore, things like that, where they're restricting. Do you have other examples of places where they feel, shall I say, trampled, and they're trying to minimize that?
Yes, I contributed a book to a case study to a book called Over Tourism by the Council for Responsible Tourism. There are 26 case studies in there. I've curated different programs from around the world and domestically. Columbia River Gorge is a good example of a multi-jurisdictional area across its counties and states, and they put together an effective management program. Similarly, in Europe, Rotterdam, Iceland, there are many, many good examples.
What
And I
are
think
some of the, pardon me, but what are one or two of the elements that they're implementing that are being effective?
one is to create a structure that crosses jurisdictional boundaries. Tourism is very complicated. So you've got county parks, you've got state parks, you've got federal parks, you've got different agencies. You really need to find a governance structure that can coordinate those activities.
Okay, I got that, but in limiting, is it just a market-based thing where it gets expensive and less people go? Or how are they, because when you say over tourism, generally people think it's too many people. So are they better managing these people, like Disneyland, putting them through?
Yeah, too many people is a subjective thing. I was on one panel talking about over tourism where they said, how many tourists is too many tourists? I said, one. Because I had a person that had a recreational vehicle that parked across from my house. I said, that's too many tourists. But can you have 5,000 people in the convention center? Can you have a whole bunch of people in Kapilani Park? Yeah, you can do that. So it's how you market the destination to attract the right kinds of visitors, how you manage them after you get here, and then you put the structures in place to pull off that management.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Haas. The bill right now is written, says that, this study, which I think we're in agreement on is necessary, won't be coming out until 2025. And the DBED or HT projections are that we're going to get to near 10 million visitors by 2024. Do you think that we should be coming up with some type of framework to reorganize the inner workings and the folks that work at HTA sooner than 2025?
Yeah, this bill does not preclude us from doing other things. We shouldn't stop, but this bill asks us to look out into the world and see what is effective out there. In the meantime, we need to look at ourselves and say, how can we do this better? As I said, I've seen tourism plans going all the way back to 1991 that said this was our intention to manage tourism, and we haven't done it. So I think that merits a review.
Mhm. Considering your long history on, helping to frame better management of tourism, and, especially in the past 2 years, to HTA's credit, they've undergone DMAP exercises, and they've gotten really good community responses. But do you feel that as a result of those DMAP recommendations, that HT has really reorganized their entire structure to align with the 4 pillars that they espouse that we need to pursue?
The short answer is yes. And it takes time to see the results. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but the current strategic plan for Hawaii Tourism Authority was just adopted in 2020. They have recognized in that plan to need to do a shift. They've reorganized, they've launched the DMAPs. So there's a lot going on, but it will take some time to see some of those results.
When you look at their budget, do you see that they have aligned their budgetary expenditures with all the pillars in DMAPs?
I don't have knowledge of the details of that. My own background includes marketing, so I would say part of that, and I know the idea of marketing is somewhat controversial because people equate marketing with bringing more people in here, but a very large part of marketing is rebranding, is to cause people to think differently about the brand. I often say that we have the curse of a strong brand. We have a very strong brand. When you go around the world and say Hawaii, people have instantly come up with an image that isn't necessarily the image that we want. So that's going to take some effort to redirect and reorient.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Senator Moore.
Thank you. Just to follow up, you said that they are changing, so they've got a new management plan, and you say that haven't yet to see some achievements, but is the structure itself, internal structure, that's where the concern is. Is it aligning with those pillars in terms of having functions that are set aside for then having achievements and objectives being met and performance metrics accordingly? Do you have enough knowledge of the internal?
To the extent, I'm sorry, to the extent that I am aware, they have some of the same issues that HTA has always had. They don't have and let me preface this by saying they have taken a lot of time and effort to voluntarily work with other agencies and get cooperation from other agencies. One of the issues that I see that could come out of this study is some more structured way to cut across these boundaries when it comes to managing tourism. Without that, I think they've worked very hard to create relationships with agencies like DLNR, the counties. I know that the DMAPs were done at the county and actually the island level with community support. So I think they are working very hard at that.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. We ask Mr. DeFries.
Chair.
Senator Moore.
Yeah, I am looking at your organization. It seems that it hasn't really quite changed. And when we're looking at long-term lasting changes so that you meet the 4 pillars, you meet your objectives of destination management, I still see in your organization that your emphasis is on branding and culture. And I'm just concerned that if you don't change your structure, then you're still going to be doing what you're doing. So what changes have you made? And are you moving into a restructuring at all?
Thank you for the question. Perhaps there were 2 structural changes that speak to your issue directly. And that was the appointment to a new role called Chief Brand Officer of Kalani Ka'anana. And the reason we did that, and and redefined that position, which historically was a chief marketing officer. And over the 20-year history, that role was performed by very capable and seasoned sales and marketing hotel executives. In Kalani, we have somebody who's very deep into his own community, who is a Hawaiian cultural practitioner. And in his cultural practice of the hula, there is no seam between their practice and the natural environment. So what we saw was an opportunity to appoint someone. He basically inspired the creation of a position to be able to take those three pillars and his acumen in brand marketing and mold that into a completely different role. Number one. Number two was the elevation of Caroline Anderson to the role of Director of Planning. She is chiefly responsible with facilitating the creation of the DMAPs. DMAPs provides us the framework to engage the community as well as to manage tourism. And let me add that the preceding presenter, who we have tremendous respect for, which is why we support HB 1785, is prior to my arrival at HTA, Frank Oz was a vital member of the consulting team that created the strategic plan. And so that strategic plan, the offspring of DMAPs, Frank Oz had a direct hand in it. And I know that my staff is incredibly grateful to the contributions that he's made. So I believe that we are in fact structured differently. We also engage the island chapters of the Hawaii Visitors and Conventions Bureau. Chair Wakai and Vice Chair Misalucha have had the opportunity to hear from the destination managers that have been retained to focus on management. Now, the reason we support this is HTA over its 20+ year history has served Hawaii well. Can the model be improved? Absolutely. And which is why we believe that having the Legislative Research Bureau conduct the study that's being proposed is the prudent approach to redoing the Hawaii Tourism Authority. So thank you.
Just one further question, Chair. Who is in charge of your natural resources and who is in charge of your community organizing?
Can you repeat that question?
Yes, I'm sorry. Who is in charge of your environment or natural resources? Who is your natural resources head? And who is your community organizing or relations head?
Yes. What we have is, to the extent that that interaction is DMAPs related, our primary point person is Caroline Anderson, our Director of Planning, and she is backed up by our Chief Administrative Officer, Keith Regan. In issues related to the community and the culture, Kalani Kanana is the lead individual and is supported by his team of senior brand managers.
What about your community relations? Is that a separate person, separate head, or is Caroline and Keith still doing everything?
You know, I'm directly engaged in it, but we also are fortunate to have a public affairs officer by the name of Ilihia Johnson, who joined us in November.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I want to just follow up on a couple of things. I'm looking at your current organizational chart, Mr. DeFries, and you still have 9 employees under the brand area, senior brand manager, and you have brand manager. So you have 9 people devoted specifically in your org chart, plus Kalani, I guess it's 10 people that focus on the branding side. On the other side of the equation, the other 3 pillars, I see Caroline, and then she has an administrative assistant and then the secretary. So you have 3 people dedicated to the other 3 pillars. And you have Kalani in charge of 9 people that continue to be described as brand managers. So I don't see how your structure aligns with all the good work that Caroline has done with creating, the DMAPs and all the 4 pillars that need to be pursued. Your organizational chart doesn't reflect that.
Chair, or
Chair
John,
Wakai, if you will, Chair Wakai, I'd like to ask Kalani before I comment to weigh in on that. Thanks, Kalani.
Chair, so thanks for outlining that. So you're correct. There are 6 brand managers, 3 senior brand managers, as well as 2 admin assistants that fall under my direct supervision. Of those team members, they're divided across multiple responsibilities. So there's no one person that is all Hawaiian culture or all natural resources or all community. But what I can tell you is Ivalani Kuali'i Ohanohano is our senior brand manager that oversees the majority of, to Senator Moriwaki's point, the natural resources and community activities. So there are brand managers, and in our mind, the reason why my position is titled Chief Brand Officer is because the brand is holistically made up of all 4 pillars. Our community, our natural resources and Hawaiian culture make up the destination, and the brand marketing pillar makes up our promotion and education to visitors about it. So collectively, the 4 pillars are embodied in our staff. Again, 6 brand managers, 3 senior brand managers, as well as 2 administrative assistants.
But their positions aren't described that way. And then the way they're stacked is a little bit squishy, right? They're like all these 10 people that are under you kind of do a little bit of this, kind of do a little bit of that. But from an organizational structure, and as we move to better management, I think as a government entity, we have to have clear lines of responsibility, not, oh, well, one of these 10 people is supposed to be doing natural resources. Oh, one of these 10 people does a little bit of culture. That necessity for clear lines of responsibility are not evidenced in your current org chart.
So the org chart, I agree, Senator, doesn't have all of the detail, but I can tell you each program manager, right, each brand manager has specific assignments either by program or by contract that they oversee. So we can tell you exactly if you have a particular question, like the Resort Area Hawaiian Culture Initiative, or whether it's whatever program that we're doing, there is somebody that is ultimately responsible for the oversight of that contractor program. I can tell you Irina De La Torre is the program manager that often deals with our natural resource programs. So our Sustainable Tourism Association of Hawaii contract, Hawaii Green Business contract, those kinds of programs fall with Irina. So I can walk you folks through it. I'm happy to answer your questions and provide what you need in that regard.
Members, any further questions? If not, thank you. We're going to take a brief recess prior to taking the vote. Thank you for your patience. We're reconvening the Committee on Energy, Economic Development and Tourism and our friends from the Committee on Government Operations. The 2 chairs have conferred, and we really see the necessity for us to take a bit of action in reorganizing the Hawaii Tourism Authority now. We're not going to change we're just going to help in 2 facets. One, to put their destination management plans into the statute. And then secondly, help them to reorganize so that the 4 pillars of destination management action plans are evidenced in the way they are structured, as well as dropping in money into that structure. But since a lot of this has to do with the kind of retooling of government, I'm going to defer to my colleague, Chair Moriwaki, to kind of walk us through the specifics on how we're going to help improve what is already a good bill.
Thank you, Chair. I think this will really help us. Mr. Haas also stated that there really needs to be more work on this going forward and not have to wait until the study is done. So I think this is a good addition of putting into law the destination management plan. So we're assured that it will in fact be executed. and the 4 pillars. So the reorganization that is being proposed here, I think is a good one. It takes the 4 pillars, the Hawaiian culture, the natural resources, the community relations, and the branding, and has then the functions for this organization that would make it, I think, a stronger organization that can accept funding as well as functions and activities to effect the destination management plans. I think that there is a proposed organization that could be attached in the committee report, but the idea of the reorganization and its functions, I think, will help to effectuate the plans and the study results, hopefully, much more effectively. I think that is all on the reorganization. Are there any questions? Oh, the appropriations, I think, comes from,
Yeah, so we're gonna.
okay,
clearly put in the
okay,
bucket.
so appropriations are going to be inserted.
Because we had one more.
Oh, okay. Appropriations are going to be inserted. It's $60 million total, as the board has approved. Accordingly, Hawaiian Culture would get $12,903,800. Natural Resources, $7,652,500. The Community Relations, $16,436,783. Branding, $18,022,500, and administration, $3,972,107. With that, the total should be $60 million. Okay.
We're
Thank
also
you.
going to require that all marketing contracts be performance-based. And the last issue is we're going to make sure that if a contractor is hired to address one of the pillars, let's say they're the brander, they are not to be allowed to go and engage in other responsibilities and have people that are less competent in, doing culture and natural resources or community, just because they're the big marketing contractor. So everyone's got to stay in their swim lane as a contractor.
I'd like to just add to that because I heard Kalani say that, everybody does everything. I think in this regard, that having the 4 components, the 4 pillars, and having people actually accountable for that would make it easier in terms of someone managing that area and managing that component of the plan. So I like to see us have appropriations and everything following those pillars. So in fact, we can see what comes out of the work of that component. So
everyone, in summary, what we're proposing today is, the part 1 that you see in the bill now, it will help further us as a state looking at alternative tourism governance options. And we all look forward to that study being delivered to us by 2025. But in the meantime, the changes as outlined, as Chair Moriwaki said, will conform our statutes to the DMAPs, and by revamping the Hawaii Tourism Authority will clearly set up an opportunity to support the four pillars. And of course, we're adding $60 million into this bill for them to be able to execute on this new direction. So that's those are the recommendations. Members, any discussion? No? These figures were already approved by the board, the Hawaii Tourism Authority board. So we're just putting them into their budget figures. So members, any further or any discussion? Questions? Okay. If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, members, we are voting on HB 1785 HD1. Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. Senator Misalucha votes aye. Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Riviere.
Aye.
Senator Favela. Excuse. Chair with 4 votes, your recommendations adopted.
Thank you, everyone.
for the Government Operations Committee, same recommendation. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Dela Cruz.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Gathering, Senator Favela, Special Commissioner Nate.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Good afternoon. The Joint Committee on Water and Land and the Committee on Energy, Economic Development and Tourism is on its hearing schedule for today, March 23rd, Wednesday. And members and EET, thank you so much for actually giving us an opportunity to do this joint hearing. So appreciate our schedules. Let's proceed then with HB 1788 House Draft 2, and this is relating to Waiakea Peninsula redevelopment. This establishes the Waiakea Peninsula Development District and Redevelopment and Planning Committee for the redevelopment of public lands on Waiakea Peninsula. Establishes the Waiakea Peninsula Redevelopment District revolving fund. It appropriates funds, and it sunsets June 30th, 2032, effective July 1st, 2050. Testifying for DLNR as well. And members, and for those testifying, just that you are aware that we do have an SD1, understanding that some of you may be testifying on the HD2. However, we will discuss the SD1 as we convene with our members of the Economic Development Committee during decision-making. Just for your information. DLNR, Russell, are you gonna be?
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair Inoue and Chair Wakai and members of the committees. Russell Tsuji for DLNR. We did submit testimony in opposition to House Draft 2. We understand that a Senate draft is being proposed, and we look forward to hearing about that. But I think we'll be in support of that provision. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have comments from Craig Hirai, Department of Budget and Finance as well, and members with regards to HD2. We do have opposition of 5, 1 support and 1 comments. Members, any questions on this measure? However, let's confer with the chair of the committee. We will go into deliberations, or if you want, Chair, we can proceed with hearing what SD1 is about.
Let's do it.
Okay, I like that. All right, members, we've circulated the House draft, the Senate draft 1. And at this point in time, I do want to thank the committee, DLNR, for working diligently with our committee as well. And this issue has been debated a long time. And you wouldn't believe, I can give you stories, but more than 20 years. And I was here from 1998 to 2008 when I left, and this was on the table. It's on the table again. So hopefully, I have to again say that having worked with DLNR, and for those such as the League of Women Voters sends testimony in opposing members, I do want to say their reference had to do with the Attorney General's opinion, comments with regards to the HD2. And so this bill as well, working with DLNR, addresses the issues then. So having said that, Chair's recommendation is to pass HB 1788 House Draft 2 with an SD1. I'd like to add that the committee has amended this with these amendments. Number 1, we'll be substituting the Redevelopment and Planning Committee for the Waiakea Peninsula Redevelopment District with a working group to serve as an advisory body to the Board of Land and Natural Resources, and to assess the challenges to and deserved outcomes for redevelopment, making findings and recommendations for proposed redevelopment to the Board of Land and Natural Resources for consideration in an open meeting in accordance with Chapter 92 of the HRS. Will be requiring the working group to consist of certain members, and later I will go over who the members are. Clarifying that the working group shall conduct its work through meetings, informational briefings, consultation with DLNR lessees, interested community members, and organizations and persons who have expressed an interest in redevelopment projects in the Waikea Peninsula Redevelopment District. And sorry for those in Zoom land, this peninsula is the island of Hawaii. It's on the east side of the Big Island in Hilo and Banyan Drive. Fourthly, this is requiring DLNR to provide any necessary administrative support to the working group. We're deleting language that would have established the powers and duties of the Redevelopment and Planning Committee in HD2. Clarifying that the working group shall prepare or cause to be prepared through one or more planning departments or consultants procured through the department, a redevelopment plan for the Waikea Peninsula Redevelopment District, which may include certain criteria. We're deleting language that would have required the redevelopment plan to include areas principally for processing, construction, deconstruction, manufacturing, transportation, wholesaling, storage, similar industrial activities, and the required parceling of land into minimum size areas related to specific uses. We'll be clarifying that the BLNR may withdraw dormant or underutilized public land under existing public auction or directly negotiated leases for other priority needs or purposes under certain circumstances, which shall apply retroactively to all existing leases, requiring the working group to submit the redevelopment plan to the Board of Land and Natural Resources for approval and requiring the board, rather than the Redevelopment and Planning Committee, to hold public hearing on the proposed redevelopment plan, clarifying that after an unspecified number of years after the Waikea Peninsula Redevelopment District is established, the BLNR shall submit a report to the legislature of its findings and recommendations, including any proposed legislation, deleting language that would have regulated leases renewed or reissued by the Redevelopment and Planning Committee. We'll be deleting language that would have established the Waikea Peninsula Redevelopment District Revolving Fund. We'll be deleting sections 3 through 7 of the measure. We'll be inserting language appropriating an unspecified amount of general funds to the Department of Land and Natural Resources for the establishment and operations of the Redevelopment District Working Group. We're deleting the repeal date of June 30th, 2032. We'll be amending section 1 of the measure to reflect its amended purpose, and we'll be making technical non-substantive amendments for the purposes of clarity and consistency. Members, as I did indicate earlier, this has been long overdue. I'm glad at this point that DLNR was able to come to the table, working with us in the Senate as well, and proposing an undeveloped area of prime lands for activity in the east side in tourism. And I believe that this is a good work in progress and ask for your consideration of support, Mr. Chair.
Can you read some of the
She read the entire bill.
Okay, all right. Okay, having said that, just for you, you might say, well, who's the working group? So let me say that the working group is a chairperson of the board, the administrator of the DLNR Land Division, or its designee, the Director of Office and Planning and Sustainability. Mary Alice didn't know that, but she's on it. The chairperson of the Senate Committee on Water and Land, or the designee, the chairperson of the House of Representatives Committee on Water and Land, or the designee, the Director of Planning of the County of Hawaii, the working group, and that's it. So we need to work fast. And I'm just amazed and jealous about how fast that redevelopment with hotels over at Kapolei, that they didn't have problems, but all of a sudden there's this hotels and apartments, commercial activity going on. Let's get our work done and do our work for the Big Island as well and East Hawaii. So having said that, members, any discussions?
Sounds great.
Okay, shall we
Well,
go ahead?
what's the question? I have a question now.
Yes,
You have designees for all the working group members except for the land board chair.
that's because most of the decision will be going to the chair. Now, I would be I would be, Russell, are you still on? We can ask.
No, I mean,
Yes,
even if this bill
yes, I'm on.
passes, I mean,
Yeah.
the administration ends
Yeah.
at the end of this year,
Right?
I would
So
not
we'll
have a
have a new
problem with
board
this.
member?
at some point.
Yeah, at some point will be, now, having said that we change of administrations anyway, so question of raised by my vice chair, Russell, was there any idea why? Or because of a
No,
conflict?
probably oversight, Chair. Sorry, but yeah, my intent was to allow designees, if that is appropriate, and the chair would make a such
And so
determination.
noted as well in the bill, right? The
Yeah.
chair or its designee.
Or
But
designate.
that doesn't.
I'm sorry if I did not have that.
Okay, well, you know what, it's up for discussion. So if the committee feels you want the member of the board, the chair. Sure, I'm open.
Or the designee.
Or the designee. Okay.
Yeah,
we'll add
sometimes
another
scheduling
amendment.
becomes a problem if they're not allowed to send someone
Okay,
else. Yeah.
but yeah, all right, I'm open. Okay, I suggest members that we add staff, okay, a position with regards to the chair of the board, the LNR or designate. Okay, having said that, any more comments?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Senator
Does the
Revere.
working group have an expiration date? Does it sunset or does the working group go on in perpetuity?
I think there, Russell,
In other words, do they?
help
do they
me.
Do their work, do their report?
Sorry, that's another oversight, Senator.
Okay, and I didn't catch it as well because I was deleting the working group originally on the other side. You know what, working group, this already, as I did say, we're moving forward. So I would say maybe the first report is due to the legislature preliminary report from the advisory group be at the legislature. It's too soon, it's half a year, so by 2024, okay? Because the committee got to be formed and under a new administration, it's gonna take some time.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Is that,
So they do have a report and then.
they do have to give the legislature the report, but I believe it says, I think somewhere about, what, 3 years to the board? There was
I think
some,
there's a blank date. when
they, I
report.
think there was by 3 years, they should be reporting, presenting their, the recommendation to the board within 3 years. Did I see that somewhere?
Right, but then do they
Okay.
continue after that or are they done? I
Uh,
don't think it's clear. So maybe. you can
Okay,
address
and
that
another
later.
thing, this is going to WAM, so we can give time to, Senator Revere. Good question. Okay,
We clarified that. Okay, good.
all right. And you know what, members of staff, can you add that into the committee report? Okay, so having said that, Chair's recommendation is to pass HB 1788, House Draft 2 with an SD 1. Any comments? Other than that, Chair for Waterland is to pass with amendments. Vice Chair Agaran for the votes, Chair goes aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Misalucha,
Aye.
Senator Revere,
Aye.
Senator Vella, recommendation adopted.
Thank you.
For members of EET, same recommendation. Any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For Committee on Energy, Economic Development and Tourism, this is regards HB 1788, HD2. Chair votes, or Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Misalucha votes aye. Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay,
Fantastic.
thank you. Thank you. This concludes then the both committees on Water and Land and EET. And thanks everybody out there.
Hello again, everybody. It's now our lonely EET committee by ourselves, and it's amazingly 3:15 on this March 23rd in room 224. We have one bill on this agenda, that is House Bill 2256 HD1 SD1 relating to a Department of Environmental Protection. On our testifiers list, we have Pua Ayu from DLNR. Okay, no Pua.
Aloha, I'm here.
Oh, hi Pua.
Aloha. Chair, Vice Chairs, members. The department stands on its testimony in opposition mainly because of the timing of the working group's report and the fact that there's no budget in this bill. We think a budget is really important to make this thing go. We have other concerns that are outlined in our written testimony. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Paul. We have Health, Environmental Health Administration. Anybody from the Department of Health? Okay, I don't have a name, so we're going to move on to Scott Glenn from the State Energy Office.
Aloha, Chair Wakai, and Vice Chair Misalucha, members of the committee. The Energy Office stands on its testimony, providing comments.
Thank you, Scott. Mary Alice Evans.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair and Senator Revere. The Office of Planning and Sustainable Development offers comments on this bill. We believe that Hawaii's sustainability, climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation requires a multi-agency approach for all branches, departments, and agencies for the state of Hawaii. And I would mention that the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development has actually got a broader mission than just the environment. We support a healthy environment, a healthy economy as well. And we're always looking for balance between those important priorities for the state, including affordable housing and clean energy. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Kathleen Mitchell from the Board of Water Supply.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee. Kathy Mitchell, Board of Water Supply. We stand on our written testimony in support and offer some amendments for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. And we have Ted Boland.
Ted Boland for the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and the Climate Protectors Hawaii. Hawaii is different than other states in having a department, not having a Department of Environmental Protection. Most of the regulation here is done by the Department of Health. I served for 15 years as a Deputy Attorney General representing the Department of Health. And with no criticism of the Department of Health, I often felt that we were poor stepchildren. That is, health was the primary focus, and even more so now with COVID, and environment kind of was shunted off to the sidelines. So I think it's important to have a Department of Environmental Protection. It's important for economic development and tourism, as well as for protecting the environment, because Hawaii's brand is so much about its pristine environment. And if we don't maintain that, we're going to lose some tourism, we're going to lose some economic development. So I strongly urge the committee to pass this bill. I think it's a good idea. I think the process is good for taking several years to work out the logistics. The only suggestion I would have by way of amendment is that there be some environmental advocates on the working group. They have lots of agencies, which is good, but there's some other wisdom I think that could be provided from environmental advocates who have experience in dealing with the Department of Health and other agencies with regard to water, air, land, and other areas. So I would suggest that the committee amend this bill to add some environmental advocates and that the committee pass this bill. I'm available for questions. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us, Ted. Members, that's all I have for those who are signed up to testify on this measure. Any questions of those who are here or online? No. Okay, good. We will take a brief recess prior to taking the vote. Thank you for your patience. We're reconvening the Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. Our 3:15 agenda, we had House Bill 2256 HD1 SD1 relating to the Department of Environmental Protection. Let's Committee thought this is kind of a novel idea of looking after the environment and saving Hawaii as well as the planet with a cabinet level department, but would like to make a number of recommendations to this measure. One is to delete the language creating the task force, put energy management and protection development in the department's statute, create a director position within the department, because otherwise it's just an open entity that with no person guiding it. So we're going to create a director position. And it's as its first group of employees, we're going to move the state energy office into this department, along with its all of its staffing and funding. Take the Board of Water Supply recommendation to create a Board of Environmental Protection to which the department will report to, and make technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
Chair votes aye on HB 2256 HD1 SD1. For the remaining members with Senator Favela excused, are there any? Oh, he's here. Yay. For all members present, all four the remaining members, are there any reservations? Any
Reservations.
reservations for Senator?
Yeah,
Rivera?
reservations.
Senator Favela. Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Thank you. And members, on the last measure for action, we're going back to our 3 o'clock agenda. On that agenda was House Bill 2399 HD1 relating to waste management. We heard testimony from the various interested parties on Monday, I believe, or earlier. It was a joint with our friends from the Committee on Agriculture and Environment. And they passed out the bill with the following recommendation: to extend the producer responsibility, or EPR, as a concept whose time has come. We're going to take into account the recommendation by Lauren Zerbel and her food industry group. And please allow me to read specifically what the language will be. Quote, any material that is used in the packaging of a product that is regulated as a medical drug, medical device, or dietary supplement by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act 21 U.S.C. 321, U.S. Code of Federal Regulations, or the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act is exempt, end quote. So that's the only amendment we're going to make to House Bill 2399. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
Members, we are voting on HB 2399 HD1. Chair recommends pass with amendments. For the remaining members, are there any reservations? Any opposition? Chair, your recommendations adopted.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for your time. We are adjourned.